Yo, what's up everybody? It's Jason back again with another video. Good morning, Sunday. And I planned out this list last night, but I wanted to give it, just a sleepover here to see if things still fell the same way in terms of ranking. The ranking is always a little bit, subject to change, as it will. I promise this video is not going to be as long as the last one. 1977 was just a huge beast of a year for records. I have considerably less records for 1973, so we're going back in time. This is before I was born, so I can't tell you a lot of memories from this year or what was going on, basically, but this is kind of pre-disco era. A lot of jazz, a lot of funk, maybe even a little metal in today's top 12. So without further ado, I'll kick into the top 12 here. So at number 12, I am coming in with Creative Source. This is a really cool album. I kind of love this album cover. It at first looks kind of cheesy and weird. You don't see a pink cover every day, especially in the 70s. I don't know. This looks like a 60s cover to me. And you got all these hand action going on, kind of trippy a little bit. And their logo, I think, is also supposed to be a hand. I just kind of put all this together last night. Anyway, LA band, LA funk band, kind of side band of, I think, the Fifth Dimension is the other band that some members are from. Anyway, the whole point of this record is, the number one jam on this record is You Can't Hide Love, which is the opening track. It is literally only 3 minutes and 22 seconds, but what a jam that is. I have a house version. I first heard, of course, this song as a house version on Rob Soul Records out of France. And then I think almost by accident I found the original, or maybe I looked it up, and then I found a copy of this for only $6.99 locally. I had to grab it. It's an as-is copy, but it's actually pretty decent. I would almost give it like a VG. Certainly no skips and not too crackly sounding. So yeah, You Can't Hide Love is actually then redone a couple years later by Earth, Wind and Fire. So they kept that track going. Also on this one, I mean, it's kind of interesting and fun. It's more of a fun album, I guess you'd say. Like side 2, you got Magic Carpet Ride, a Steppenwolf song. And then they do a cover of Who Is He and What Is He to You, a Bill Withers track, which is also pretty decent. Beyond that, I'm not going to talk too much about the rest of it, but it's not too bad. But You Can't Hide Love alone makes this my number 12 in the list, so that's Creative Source. Number 11, this record maybe could rank or should rank a little higher, but you're going to see we got a couple actually from Mandrill in this year. They were a little bit busy. This is the earlier in the year, so we're going to go lower rank for the earlier release. I think like literally January of 1973. And it's just ranking a little lower because I'm not as familiar with it. Like I don't play it. I haven't played it as many times as some of the other records, but I should. Listening again last night, it is solid. Just Mandrill are just an awesome early 70s to mid-late jam band, funk band, multiracial, a lot of like Latin influences in here as well. There's like a total Latin track on here that's really good. Hagalo, Polk Street Carnival on side 2 is kind of fun as well. But I would say side 1 is better than side 2, and just for that kind of like hanging out, jamming, listening to some guys really jam it out, funky style. This is a great album. It's not too cheesy, aside from Polk Street. Side 2 also gets a little bit hippy dippy. I don't know if this is going to be my hippie record of the list today, but I usually have at least one that's kind of hippy dippy. We'll see. There's sort of elements, I would say, sprinkled throughout 1973. But yeah, Mandrill Composite Truth. If you see this, definitely pick it up. It's one of the better ones. I would pick up almost any Mandrill, to be honest. So that brings us, that's 11. That brings us into the top 10. Now I am going to go with pretty well known big hitting album of the year, and that is the OJ's Ship Ahoy. This is a really beat up copy. In fact, I kind of had to wait to do this video because I had it in my storage locker for a long time. Look at that crunch. That is definitely a crunchy spine. But the vinyl itself is also crunchy too. I mean, especially opening track, I've just got like loads of kind of dirt noise. Got to give it a good cleaning maybe. Maybe it'll help. Or I need another copy. Yeah, it's a little bit fragile to open, but I will do it. Anyway, what about the songs? The songs are unbelievable on this. They're hit after hit, basically. This is Huff and Gamble again from Philadelphia, the Philly International Sound. It's great too with the OJs because you get the different voices singing. I mean, they just sound awesome. Put Your Hands Together is the opener. That rocks. Ship Ahoy. Wow, that seems like it's going to be a cheesy song, but it's actually quite fun. The Air I Breathe, lyrically a little bit on the cheese side, but these songs are great. You Got Your Hooks in Me is a great bluesy kind of jam. And then, of course, side 2, you got Donald Trump's anthem, For the Love of Money, from his Apprentice show. Everybody knows that one, but what a killer bass line. Followed up by Now That We Found Love. What a song. Don't Call Me Brother. And people keep telling me every song on this album is solid. Maybe a little bit, like I say, well known, slightly going into cheese territory, but solid album, start to finish. Can't go wrong with Ships Ahoy by the OJs. The only OJs album I have, I think, in my collection. That's my number 10. Number 9, going with a jazz album from '73. This is Donald Byrd, Street Lady. And I had to look this one up because this album kind of is so perfect for a soundtrack. Like, in fact, the notes mention that as well. I mean, it sounds, especially track 2 on side B, but all the tracks actually. Let's see that. Side 2, Witch Hunt. Man, you put on Witch Hunt, that is totally a 1970s cop drama TV show soundtrack, if you ever heard one, or a black exploitation film as well. I mean, it's not as cheesy as like actual 1970s soundtracks like Shaft, etc., but it's just got that vibe. So there he is there, Donald Byrd. It's a great album, actually. It's really good listen, some solid playing on there. It just gives you that whole mystique of this was a movie. I totally had to look it up to see if it was a movie soundtrack, but it's not actually a movie. Street Lady, there it is. I'd say Street Lady is probably my least favorite song. Or it's okay. It's about in the mid range, but the full side A is probably the best on this one. That's my number 9. Number 8, coming in at 8 is the Crusaders. You're going to see a lot of Crusaders in the 70s. They just have loads of albums. They're a bit like Cameo. You can just go to a record shop and find a new Crusaders album that you haven't picked up yet. They're all worth picking up. Excellent playing. Again, more on that jam kind of sound. Like if you just want to hear people jamming out. This is Unsung Heroes. No songs really stand out to me. I'm not that familiar with this album. You got the cardboard sleeve inside too. They really double down on this whole sign thing. And I guess it's quite affirmative, this whole album cover concept. They're unsung heroes and they're up on the sign. It is what it is. They never had the best album covers, I don't think, Crusaders, but, they're trying. This is on that ABC label. This is a Canadian press on Quality Records. But the blue thumbprint label. So yeah, Crusaders, Unsung Heroes. It's ranking pretty high because I gotta say almost every song on this album is good. Not cheesy really at all. Just gets in, does the business. Jazz funk fusion right here. Pretty much their whole career. So that gets us up to, oh man, I always screw up around number 8, right? So 7, 6. Number 7 is a band we've already shown. So this is their second album of the year, Mandrill. This is a huge album for me. Just outside of town, I was really pumped when I found a copy of this, and really in good condition too. Spine is still intact. I mean, this almost looks like a near mint cover. Really, I don't see a lot of dings or anything. But Mandrill, kind of discovered them with this album. Immediately searched out this album once I realized where the sample was from. So, in fact, let me grab those for right now. Well, I looked for my tape, but can't seem to locate it. But the number one sample on this record is the opening track. Mango Meat. It's just got a killer, nice light drumming kind of funky beat, which has been sampled by Jungle Brothers, Straight Out the Jungle, their first album on Warlock. I used to have that cassette. I know I have that cassette somewhere, but I can't seem to find it. But yeah, the JBs, not James Brown, but Jungle Brothers, hip-hop group in the 80s, they'd sampled the hell out of Mango Meat. So immediately you're going to recognize that. That's side A. Now, first track, side B, you're going to recognize immediately if you have this album. Really the last good Public Enemy album, Apocalypse 91. And the killer track on here, By the Time We Get to Arizona, basically calling out John McCain's old state as a racist state. I think Arizona did not celebrate MLK Day or something for a long time. That's kind of the nature of the whole song. So super politicized, just insane riff, funky ass riff, which comes straight out of here. And that is the song Two Sisters of Mystery. Wow, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Yeah, these songs are not super long. I mean, Mango Meat, 4 minutes and 32 seconds. Half of the song is just that killer groove that is sampled by Jungle Brothers. Yeah, so for those two songs alone, this has got to rank up pretty high. So this is my number 7, Mandrill, just outside of town. It's probably my favorite Mandrill album just because of those two songs. The other songs, there's a few good ones and there's a few kind of just whatevers. I think that would be my only complaint about Mandrill. Same thing with the other album, sort of like half is really good and then the other half is like, maybe skip it, kind of drop the needle or move the needle along. But there it is, that's my number 7, Mandrill. I think they're out of Brooklyn, that group. Now, this is number 6. This didn't make the top 5, but it was kind of close call here. Yeah, almost could put this in my top 5, but another guy kind of edged it out. This is a jazz album, George Benson's Body Talk. Really like this album. It's on CTI, of course, Creed Taylor. Basically, if you're looking to get into 70s jazz funk fusion, just buy all the CTI stuff and the sub-label Kudu, and you're going to be in pretty good shape. You probably recognize a lot of the names too. So, George Benson. And let me just read a little something about George Benson here. So I was reading on his Wikipedia now. Still alive, born in 43, so he's 79 now. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At the age of 7, George Benson first played ukulele in a corner drugstore, for which he was paid a few dollars. At the age of 8, he played guitar in an unlicensed nightclub on Friday and Saturday nights, which the police soon closed down. At the age of 9, he started to record. Out of 4 sides he cut, 2 were released at the age of 9. Yeah, basically, all that to say, this guy's a damn good guitar player. So, I mean, he's starting at like the age of 7 or whatever and keep going. An amazing jazz guitar player. And I think this is one of his best albums. Of course, I always like The Breezin' and Give Me the Night, the later stuff that's more poppy. This is more straightforward 70s style jazz. It always takes a little bit of a bad rep because it gets into sort of smooth jazz territory, but I don't think this is in cheese territory at all. kind of one of the ways I judge some of these jazz records too, or any of these records in these 1970s rankings is like, does it get too cheesy? Not so much on this one at all. Just pretty serious, good stuff. 3 tracks side A, 2 tracks on side 2, and yeah, Body Talk by George Benson. One of my probably top 3, top 4 records by George Benson, and it's coming in number 6 for 1973 for me. That's definitely got some good repeated listens on that one. Now, number 5 is a surprise for me. Doing these rankings is always kind of fun. At first I was going to just rank these records mostly on like how many repeated listens, how many times do I listen to a record, and sometimes there's a bit of that. You know, the most listened to is going to be higher up in the rank. Other times I try to rank it also based on quality of maybe either the production or the musicianship or the songs. And this is an album I never listened to, but it was always been in my collection. Just the funny cover. This album cover always sort of cracks me up. Very 1970s, like kind of like introspective on oneself or double self. This is Yusuf Lateef, Hush and Thunder. Now, a couple things has got to be said right away. First of all, 1973 is definitely the year of the flute. This is got to be the biggest flute year ever going. Now, there was some flute, I think, in Mandrill, but this is full-on flute action. And I think it's won me over. I'm officially into the jazz flute category or camp. The floatists. Wow, I mean, listening to metal and punk, you just don't hear a lot of flute action. Or even house and techno, not much flute, right? The jazz guys, they own the flute, and they made it happen. So a lot of that going on here. Lots of cool stuff. I think some electric bass, but I think some electric piano as well. But the other thing I realized about this album, so putting it on, and it kind of goes back and forth, like dark, light, you know, like a sort of bigger or a cooler groove, you know, a smooth groove going on, and then a really quiet sort of ambient, dark kind of ambient track, back and forth. It's really sick. And so I'm like dark and light, and then I'm like, okay, Hush and Thunder, and I get it. It's the whole concept basically. It's gonna go, and also, you know, like foreground, background, and so there's like 2 things, you know. Anyway, there's a thing going on with this album. So it's my number 5. Very cool album. Definitely for some late night listening. Like I said, you get the grooves, and you also get like some sort of ambient kind of quiet stuff as well. 2 for the price of 1. All right, number 4. I'm going with, we're going to switch it up a little bit from jazz and funk. We're going to go into rock territory, prog rock, in fact. And an album I just fairly recently picked up, a beat up used copy. This is not your mo-fi here at all. But, you know, does the business for me. This is not a band I'm going to invest loads and loads of dollars into. I'm not like a super fan or anything. I always kind of heard of them in the background, and then did a little bit more investigation, and decided to pick some up. I'm talking about ELP, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and you got this amazing album cover. What is his name? H.R. Gergen or something. Geiger. Same guy did the album cover for Celtic Frost. So that's good territory. This is the Brain Salad Surgery. Cool title. Yeah, this record is literally all over the place, and that's exactly how they want it to be. But done well all over the place. You know, you get some bands all over the place. It's a mistake. This is on purpose because it's prog rock. It's rock. I mean, side 2, half of side 2 is really like jazz, actually. So I lied a bit. We're still into some jazz territory. Plays like a movie, you know, not like a 1970s cop drama score, but more like maybe like a Broadway show in some respects too. Very British. A lot of cool songs on here, but I don't know any of them. I'm not going to even pretend to name off favorites or anything at this point, but it is a fun ride, and it's something that you should check out, basically. Brain Salad Surgery by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. That's my number 4. Almost had that a little higher at first, but then I put it on again, and it was like, well, it's you got to be kind of in the mood, I think, for some of that stuff. These aren't like hits and rockers. But speaking of hits and rockers, this next one, while quite, I was going to say lo-fi, but you know, basic in some of the playing, there is definitely some rockers on this one. This is my number 3. I'm going to go with the New York Dolls. Almost had this in my number 2 spot, but you're going to see what I got for number 2. But this is a legendary album. This is proto-punk for sure, but it's also just kind of like, you know, hard rock, glam rock a little bit too. Just funny kind of tracks. New York Attitude. I'm thinking of Trash. Don't Pick It Up. Love that track. That's side 2. Personality Crisis opens off side 1, which is definitely kind of a punk kind of attitude in there as well. So yeah, Looking for a Kiss, Subway Train, Pills, Jet Boy, Private World. Yeah, these guys got it all, and then some. This is a reissue copy. Pretty happy with. Mercury. You got the lipstick. So New York, Lower Manhattan, kind of New York City vibe. They only survived like 2 albums, and then they split up. But definitely a big influence on lots of other bands and lots of punk bands to come. So it's definitely making my number 3. Like I said, I play it fairly frequently in DJ sets, punk sets, but it's definitely got more of that kind of like just sort of pub rock or hard rock kind of vibe. New York Dolls. There you go. That's my number 3. Now that could have been my number 2, but I decided to go with a jazz master and an amazing 70s album at that. Herbie Hancock, the Headhunters album. This is pretty undeniably amazing. Electric. This is the electric phase now. He's getting into electric keyboards, etc., synthesizers, but it's still got a lot of cool organic sounds, and I believe some killer flute again on this jam in the back here. Album cover just like is stellar. Yeah. Also, an album that I picked up mostly because of samples. In this case, Schoolie D, "Am I Black Enough for You?" Hip hop album. It's probably the first time I heard some of these samples used, but they've been used by other people as well. I think NWA also used some of Watermelon Man. Chameleon is amazing. The first track on side A, and Watermelon Man, second track on side A. Both of those have been sampled. They're super recognizable, iconic tracks. And then side 2, you got Sly, Vein Melter. That's it, right? I think 2 tracks per side. It's all you need, pretty much. They work like extended jams as well, with killer grooves and just really hooky. A lot of hooks going on there. Not cheesy, just cool. So that's my number 2. This almost could be number 1 for the year, for 73. It's probably the most played of all these records, and I've also probably had it the longest in my collection compared to some of the other ones, and I got it for only $6 too. But I've had a couple copies of that, I think. All right, finally, number 1, before we drone on any damn longer, we got to do this one. This is a mammoth album by the Sabbath. The 5th album by Black Sabbath. I was reading, originally they were going to record it, I guess, in LA, but they were too drunk and stoned and crazy from the tour, so they crawled back to England and pumped out this beast. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is one of their best albums, in my opinion. I'm really big on Volume 4, the album before this. I know some people like Sabotage, the album after. I love Sabbath Bloody Sabbath mostly for the title track, which, the killer riff, but also, I don't think it gets mentioned enough, but when people talk about Black Sabbath, but really the vocals of Ozzy Osbourne. I've always been an Ozzy fan since I was a little kid. I used to have an Ozzy back patch on my jacket. I always joked that I was born a metalhead, and Ozzy was part of that. But yeah, his vocals, I mean, I don't think he gets enough huge respect for it, but just the range and the sound of the voice and that passion that he brings into it, I think that's the biggest thing. It's super from the heart. Love the passages in that song. And National Acrobat is also good. And then, of course, side B, you've got Killing Yourself. Killing Yourself to Live. Spiral Architect, Looking for Today. Some really great tracks on here. Some tracks that don't, think of a lot or get mentioned a lot. Saber Cadabra and Fluff. But the title track and National Acrobat are two of the biggest ones on this one. And that's what's going to make my number one, basically. Now, I would do some needle drops, but these records are fairly well known, or at least the artists are. And also, every time I seem to do a needle drop, it delays me posting this video because YouTube flags it. So, nevertheless, that's my top 12 for 1973. Let me know what you guys think and what would be in your picks for 73. Let me know which ones I missed. Was it Pink Floyd or Led Zepp or whatever? I don't have any of that stuff on vinyl anyway. That's 1973. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do 71 and 72. I don't think I have quite 10 albums for each of those years. So we'll see, but I still got to do 78 and 79 too. All right, everybody have a great day. See you soon.